Isn't it good to know that no matter where you are, you're covered? Covered by a company owned by Vaccination that understands your unique insurance needs. At Metrocint General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrocint General Insurance Company.
Have you registered for your COVID-19 digital vaccination certificate yet? Vincentians who received their COVID-19 vaccine in St. Vincent and the Grenadines are encouraged to apply for their vaccine certificate. If you are planning on traveling or planning to attend upcoming fully vaccinated events, here are 2 steps you can follow. Step 1. Send an email to vaccinecertificate@gov.bc with the following documents. 1. Your COVID-19 vaccination card. 2. Photo identification card. 3. Passport size photo. This is optional. Step 2. Be patient and allow for a maximum of 72 hours for the information to be forwarded to your email. Don't forget to check your spam or junk mail. For more information, call 784-451-2183 or the COVID-19 hotline, 784-534-4325. Your health, a shared responsibility.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Profiles. I have a very special guest on this edition, and you'll meet her when we come back from the break.
Isn't it good to know that no matter where you are, you're covered? Covered by a company owned by Vaccination that understands your unique insurance needs. At Metrocint General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrocint General Insurance Company.
I'm Shanika John, Chief Health Promotion Officer acting in the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Environment. Since St. Vincent and the Grenadines started administering the COVID-19 vaccines, we've encouraged persons from different age group, different risk factors to get vaccinated. For those persons who have contracted the COVID-19 virus, vaccinated or unvaccinated, the severity and the impact of the virus is significantly different. If you've not yet considered getting the vaccine, I encourage you to do so today. Get vaccinated.
This is Profiles, and my guest on this edition is Dr. Twanna Browne Caesar. Dr. Caesar, welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on your program.
Pleasure to have you, and let's hope that our viewers or audience will find out a bit more about who you are.
Yes, I'm looking forward to sharing my life journey thus far with you.
Well, we all know you're an established medical doctor, but I think you weren't born that way.
Definitely not.
So let's hear a bit about your early life. Were you a bright girl? Were you labeled as being bright? When Twanna started to come into the limelight to focus, what were you?
I think I was a smart kid. I was
Mhm.
smart growing up. I did well in school academically. Talkative, but I don't think any of my past teachers would say I was not focused or I
So
didn't
you
do
were
my
talkative
work.
but not disruptive.
Yes, I would say that. And definitely studious.
Okay. But not boring.
No, definitely not boring. Never boring. Very entertaining, very exciting. A live wire for the most part.
Your early childhood is where? What part of St. Vincent? You grew up in Kingad?
Yes, I was born and raised in Kingarden, spent my formative years there. I attended the Kingston Preparatory School, KPS, that's my alma mater. From KPS, I journeyed to the Girls High School, the Community College, and then to the University of the West Indies, Mona, Jamaica, and then SUNY Downstate, New York.
So that's more.
That's a lot of school.
That's the line of your academic
Yes.
career. But let's go back to primary school.
Yes.
And let me hear about your early days there and the people who influenced you, the people who started to make an indelible mark on your mind and your character.
So teachers who I remember, Mrs. Bonady. I was infant. Well, they call it infant one then, which is kindergarten now, right?
Yes.
Mrs. Bonady. My cousin, Mrs. Bennett, taught me, blessed memory. She is since deceased. And in higher school, Mrs. Duggan, Miss Duggan, she was in the grade 6 class, well, then junior 5.
Right.
And those persons in my primary years really made an impact in my life. They were persons who you met, still meet, they inquire about you, interested in how your career, how you're doing personally, how's your family. So that was meaningful to me. And they encouraged you, gave you extra work. Sometimes if they thought you finished too quickly and you looked bored, they say, hey, come and start this out as well. So
were you a top performer?
I was a good student.
And that came naturally, or did you have to put in the work, or a bit of both?
Most naturally, but I put in the work. I always put in the work.
And how were your parents this time? I mean, because I know your mother is an educator, and your father certainly is an academic as well. They must have been pushing you, were they?
No. It's interesting because I compare now to my son, who all the time I have to ask, do you have homework? Are you doing homework? And he's like, yes. I'm like, why is it not done? I had homework while waiting for my parents in the afternoon. I did my homework. I read over the work from the day before. By the time I got home, maybe you did a little light reading and so forth. But around our household, there were always books. So there was a study. I always saw my parents reading. We always had novels. We were in the library. So the environment at home was one that fostered academic excellence.
You have many siblings. So where in the line of, well, the chronological line are you?
So my parents have 6 of us. I am number 3. So
you're right in
on
the middle,
right, middle child. We're good kids in the middle.
You think that helped in stabilizing you, the fact that there were some before you?
So I have an older brother and sister. I think I was stable even if they weren't around, but they were nice to have in school, especially my brother, because he was in a higher class than I. So, if you get into a little minor trouble, you say, "Hey, I'm gonna tell my big brother," and that was a good thing. So you had a big brother in the school to rely on. But for the most part, I was pretty focused.
What about community life in that time? I'm still in the primary school year.
Mhm.
What instructions are you getting from the community? I mean, I don't mean verbal instructions,
No.
but
Um,
the mood of the place. How was that instructing you to conduct your
so
life?
generally in the King Garden, Sign Hill area, sports played an integral role.
Mhm.
And to this day, I'm still a cricket fan, not so much West Indies anymore. Football, certainly, Sign Hill was known for good football teams, and you would have competitions at the Pasha, at Annersville, at Sign Hill playing field. So I enjoyed that. Then you had the other backyard games that the neighbors came and played in the yard, whether it was
Right.
marbles or cricket in the yard, football in the yard, fruit trees, regular kid stuff back then growing up.
Were you a bit of a tomboy?
Not a bit, a lot of, a lot of. So yes, I could climb trees.
Mm.
I could probably raise and beat a decent football as well. My son was
Wow.
surprised the other day. I was like,
Okay.
"Hey, I could raise more than you probably."
Mhm.
So yeah, I got around.
So it sounds like an exciting life. A lot of it outdoors.
A
Because
lot of it outdoors.
it seems as if the era we're dealing with, I mean, you're not an old person,
No.
but the era we're dealing with seems
Don't
as if
understand
the
that.
technology hadn't taken root yet.
I think
Computer technology.
I think it's a good mix because the younger generation that I interact with, certainly my children and my nieces and nephews, we give them a good balance to appreciate. So the summer of 2020, we were on a mission. Every Saturday of that summer, we visited one of the national treasures.
Okay.
So they have already seen almost all the historical sites or places of interest on the mainland and in the Grenadines.
Right.
That was just something we embarked upon. And I don't think any of them missed their devices at that time.
Right.
So we had the kids in my immediate family, as well as their cousins, and some close friends also came along. So it was a nice journey.
And that included trips to the Grenadines as well.
Included trips to the Grenadines. They saw the Salt Whistle Bay. They saw the mangrove swamp.
Mhm.
We did Beckway. We actually did a tour of the fort and everything while we were there. So I think the historical background of the islands I think it's good.
And this was from your deliberate intervention. Eh?
Deliberate intervention. We are also even planned a drum making session.
Hmm.
So it was the August holiday,
Okay.
and we asked a group of drummers, would you teach them how to make drums and how to play the drums? And they did. And they loved it.
So that's all good parenting. But let me hear about your move into secondary school and your performance at the common entrance, as it was at the time, I believe.
Yes, at the time. So common entrance it was. Doing well in school, expected to do well. And I was disappointed. I came ninth for common entrance. That was a crisis.
Ninth overall.
Ninth overall and fifth for girls.
Okay.
And I was inconsolable almost. My parents were wondering what was wrong with me.
You set a very high standard for
I said
yourself.
I wanted to come in the top 5. They're like, you did really well. You came fifth for girls. I'm like, for girls is not the top 5. Looking back, I'm sure there must have been bigger things to be concerned with.
What was it all about? Eh? And high school was the obvious choice.
Girls' high school was the obvious choice.
Any culture shock when you went from primary school to secondary school?
No, none at all.
Just a natural transgression.
Natural transition for me. And at that point, you also had a broader scope in terms of interests. So more opportunity to play sports. I got involved in the cricket team at that point. I wasn't a netballer, I'm sorry to say. Not a fast runner, but certainly competitive. So I made sure to get standard points for Staff House. Even to this day, catch me last Thursday getting my steps in.
It's It's a wonder you didn't wear green to this program.
I thought about it. Notice I didn't wear any of the other colors though. But it was in good sport. And then they had the science club.
Right.
I was a president of the science club, and that was also another of my leadership roles from being in the girls' high school and becoming eventual head girl and just really enjoying the journey.
And I mean, you've gone through that very quickly, but I guess high school certainly must have been that session of your life, that period of your life where you really, and I'm guessing this, you really decided in your mind, you know, you're going to be of some kind of service to humanity. And I know we're coming up to our first break, but I want us to touch on that when we come back.
Certainly.
In terms of the connection of high school, the role high school played, and you as the holistic person that I know you are. Before we go out on the break, though, I want you to, because we asked you about your music here in this program.
Yes.
And I'm going to ask you for 4 pieces, but one at this point.
Okay.
Tell me that piece of music and why you're choosing it.
Chronics, I Can. I think it's a positive message, and they talk about every morning I rise with the right sun, and you understanding the blessings, and you lift up your head and say, you know, oh man. So I really enjoy that piece of music, and often anybody who knows me know I'm an avid sunset and sunrise fan. It's often my profile picture and my status update. So when he talks about rising with the rising sun, you know, I like that. I like that piece, and just appreciating the beauty of nature and enjoying simple pleasures. We don't pay anything to see beautiful sunsets and sunrises in St. Vincent. And I like it. And just a general positive feeling. You wake up and you feel renewed when you listen to that.
So it sounds as if that's certainly a piece that is part of Dr.
Smile
Twanna
at the sun.
Browne.
Smile at the sun. That's me
Caesar. So
almost every day.
So let's go out to our first break with Chronics. I Can.
When I look at where I'm coming from, I know I'm blessed, and I close my eyes and smile. Sometimes I feel like the richest man in Babylon, and I've done my best, so everything's alright inside. Oh, every morning, I rise, I stare at the sun. I know it is a blessing. So when the evening comes, I lift up my eyes to this, I'm blessed, oh man. With my 2 hands in the air as far as I can. Yeah. As far as I can. I can, yeah. My 2 hands in the air as far as I can.
Isn't it good to know that no matter where you are, you're covered? Covered by a company owned by Vaccination that understands your unique insurance needs. At Metrosint General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrosint General Insurance Company.
I got my COVID-19 vaccine and my booster shot to ensure that I am protected. I've never been tested positive for COVID-19, and even if I did contract the virus, I've never been sick. And I'm confident that the COVID-19 vaccine significantly contributed to that. The vaccines are safe, they are effective, and they're one of the ways that we can navigate this pandemic together. If you've not yet considered vaccination or getting your booster shot, I encourage you to do so today. Get vaccinated.
Every morning I rise, I stare at the sun. I know it is a blessing. Yeah. Lift up my eyes to this, I'm blessed, oh man. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Sometimes I'm lost and far from home, but I'll find my way. I follow my heart, I know I'll be found someday. While I'm lost, I learn and live. What do you say? Let's have a good time until that day. Oh, every morning I rise, I stare at the sun. I know it is a blessing. So when the evening comes, I lift up my eyes to this, I'm blessed, oh man. With my two hands in the air as far as I can. Yeah, as far as I can. I can, yeah.
This is Profiles, and my guest is Dr. Twanna Browne Caesar. Dr. Browne Caesar, chronics, I'm sure that you derive your energy from the sun, but I believe there's more than that.
For sure.
Okay. Your community or your passion for community work, I think it's fair to say some of it started in primary school because you told me you were brownie.
Yes, I was.
But was the Girl Guides movement that really started to cement that? Tell me some of your experiences and why the Girl Guides movement meant so much to you.
So I grew up in a guiding home.
Mhm.
My mother was a chief commissioner, and before that, she was a guider.
Right.
My sisters, they were also involved in the guiding movement. And it allowed you had to do good turns, as they would say. So you would get involved, whether it was in food distribution, or you're cleaning up a patch, or you're visiting a nursing home,
Right.
or you're visiting retired guiders who no longer come out to meetings for failing health and other reasons.
Right.
But apart from the activism in Girl Guides, I also involved in church activities. So both of those platforms
They were
allowed
complementary,
me,
yeah?
right, allowed me to become involved in community work, community service, and recognizing the rewards of giving back. And that is beyond monetary. So I enjoy that.
And explain that a bit to me, because some people who themselves are not driven perhaps don't understand a lot about the act of giving and the you call
The
it
feel
blessings,
good, yeah.
the blessings that you
Yeah.
receive.
Or the contentment or the feeling of satisfaction that you impacted the life of someone else, sometimes beyond what you ever thought or you set out to do. And you're like, well, I was just helping out, and then this person for the next decade telling you about some simple act of kindness that you did, and they are eternally grateful, and often it changed their lives. So that is meaningful to me and gives me great joy.
So there was the guide movement, there was the church involvement, and I believe the school setting as well was very much coming together to give you that sense of human service,
Yes.
or humanitarianism. Let's talk about your academic exploits in high school. Were you sailing through the books? Were you finding the work difficult? Were you
I'm
liking some subjects more than others?
I'm a
You know?
perfectionist.
Mm.
I liked doing well, but I definitely didn't like all subjects. Science, the natural default.
So that was just natural.
Natural default. Loved it and did well. History, probably the only subject I could definitely say I didn't like. And we were discussing with some friends the other day, and I said, maybe it's how it was presented.
Maybe.
Because as a guide, I went to Mexico for a camp, for example, and I spent several weeks at one of the guiding homes, Nuestra Cabana. And there we explored Mexico, went to a lot of the historical sites that we learned about in history.
So the Mayan people.
Yes. So that cemented it. I'm like, actually seeing what happened. And again, through guides, I camped in England.
Right.
Same story. You understood a lot of the history behind things, and now I could appreciate it. We went to the Buckingham Palace. We learned about the monarchy and a lot of the things and questions I had about slavery and so forth. I went back to read my history books that I read because I wanted a good grade in school.
Right.
But now I read it for knowledge and for understanding. So it was voluntary now. And because I had a context in which to learn it.
Yeah, and context may just be the word, because I believe some people who grapple with a lot of subjects, context is missing, and so if they can't relate it to something that's meaningful, then it's what you call rocket science, right? What subjects did you eventually pursue at your, were they O levels in those days?
O levels, so they call it O levels. I did French, Spanish was an extra subject, about 4 of us. We did Spanish with Senora Newton during lunchtime. Thank you, Senora. So that was our extra subject. English A, English B, language and literature, chemistry, physics, math, biology. So is that the 9? 9.
Those were the days when
9 days.
That when
96
subjects were increasing in terms of numbers.
It's funny because now, back in the day, everybody, why are you doing an extra subject? Why are you doing more than 8 subjects? I was like, because I want to do Spanish. And we had somebody who learned, and we did it twice a week.
And if I tell you,
everybody got ones.
When I did my O levels, 6 subjects was
acceptable.
I mean, that was like, okay,
And I was commenting and saying, persons could do 12 subjects easily, because if you look at the content, it overlaps. So why not get credit for information you already know? So I'm not one of those who say, why you need to do 15 subjects? If you already know the information and the content overlap, get credit for it.
I guess it's a question of whether the person is doing it. What is the reason why they're doing it? If they're just doing it because they want fame
and that's okay.
Well, I guess that's okay.
That's okay. If that's their reason for doing it, or they want to get the most subjects. If it is a burden and it is terribly uncomfortable,
that's the point,
and you are unable to manage, then certainly cut back. And their teachers and their parents should guide them in that respect.
Yes, that's the point I was trying to drive at. And sports. I mean, you make all these claims about being this sports person. So high school,
I love sports.
High school must have been a good platform to show off, eh?
Except I wasn't very good at any of them. I love them all. I watch a lot of sports, but I got standard points, but no, I wasn't a track star.
Did you ever compete in sports day?
No. I'm terrible. Never made the finals. But I was a big cheerleader, and for all the field events, I would get my standard points. The before sports games that required just a person to finish the race in a decent time, I got my points for that. But no, I wasn't a track star. Love track and field, but
What were some of the difficulties you were encountering or challenges at this phase of your life? I mean, so far we've made it sound as if you were breezing through, you know, and maybe that is what happened.
It was hard work. When we see breezing through, I passed comfortably and I did well. But the work was put in.
Right.
So I studied, I am disciplined, and I'm a perfectionist.
You still a perfectionist?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not as before.
You're not as hard on yourself.
Not as hard on myself. And a few years back, my younger brother made a quote. And younger brothers teach you something sometimes. And he said, don't let perfection be the enemy of progress. And with that, you realize that some things don't always have to fall into place immediately for it to be a good thing or to be a good idea. So it is a work in progress. And I've seen that over the years in several aspects. You see, well, let's start. I mean, even with business or with private practice, you start and you see it grow into something beautiful. And yeah.
Was it high school where the idea of doing medicine started to gel?
So in high school, definitely knew sciences. I liked physics, but my grandmother had several non-communicable illnesses, diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol. Grew up with her. She was one of the most influential persons in my life. And she had these illnesses and was on insulin. So her vision was failing and she would rely on family members to give her insulin. And I was curious. And my mother taught me how to do it. She would oversee, but I was a little dark.
So this insulin was administered by an injection?
Yes, injection. So I was in primary school and I could give insulin by injection. I was feeling pretty cool. And Granny said, little doc, come and give me my insulin, please. And I would be all excited, get it from the fridge, grab the syringes, and I was her little doc. And that stuck with me. As I grew older, I say, whoa, she's aging. And I told her I'd be a doctor to take care of her, you know. So
and you sincerely meant that?
I meant that. And I feel the same way about my other family members whom I love.
Right.
And that also had a big role to play in why I returned to St. Vincent. To be close. Your parents are aging, your loved ones are aging. And I believe in quality time and the family unit. And I did my time overseas and home is home.
But it's so I get that, and I get the motivation and the drive to be someone in the field of medicine. But yet, in our previous conversation, you were telling me about you weren't warming up so much to biology. So how did you?
I didn't even do biology at A-levels.
That's amazing.
It was fine at the O-levels. The botany aspect of it, I really wasn't interested in. And at A-levels, now you're in a setting where you were short of teachers. Because initially, we got to A-levels and we had a math teacher, and that was the only teacher we had. We didn't have a chemistry teacher. We had a biology teacher. So I started doing biology at A-levels. And we didn't have a physics teacher. Thankfully, we were close with the math lecturer, Mr. Young.
Okay.
And he was good friends with my brother as well. So really acted as a good guide. But a lot of it, that class put in the work on their own.
This was community college?
Community college. So I think we might have been the first group or the second group
class?
out there. So that was in 96, 97.
Right.
So I said, if I'm going to start chemistry and physics on my own, which I needed, so I went to the University of the West Indies in town, and I asked for a booklet to see what the requirements were. And I said, well, thinking about medicine, I'll be fine if I do engineering, but let me just make sure I don't shoot myself in the foot with that. And when I realized how they worded it, I said, but I don't need biology to do medicine, but I definitely need physics. God forbid I end up being an engineer.
Yeah.
So I did physics, chemistry, and bio.
That's interesting. We're at the end of our
Physics, chemistry, and math, not
physics,
bio.
chemistry, and maths. Yes, because
And drop the bio.
You did say you didn't do bio.
Right.
Yes, physics, chemistry, and maths. More heading towards an engineering field, I must say. You think about it, but still,
I didn't need it for medicine.
You kept your foot in the door.
Yes.
We're at the end of our second segment, and I'm going to ask you for that second piece of music. Tell me what it is again. Tell me why is it so much a piece that you want to keep with you?
Queen Ifrica, Lioness on the Rise. For obvious reasons. She said, are you ready? Are you ready? You know, and she said, when the roll is called out. So just positive energy and talking about women empowerment and preparing yourself for a path of excellence and progress and just moving forward. Are you ready? Yes, I am.
So let's go to the second break with Queen Ifrica. Are you ready?
Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Oh, when the roll is called out, I'll be standing taller to face the darkest and the hardest of times. We'll be taking care of all the children thereof. But if it's required, we'll be on the front line. You can call me by my name. I am ready to roll. Once the rules remain the same, how the story's been told. Call me anytime, never cop out. Lioness is on the rise, don't you ever have doubt. Never say never, willingness forever to fight and be strong. Once it's for better, I'll write every letter and moving right along.
I'm Shanika John, Chief Health Promotion Officer acting in the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Environment. Since St. Vincent and the Grenadines started administering the COVID-19 vaccines, we've encouraged persons from different age group, different risk factors to get vaccinated. For those persons who have contracted the COVID-19 virus, vaccinated or unvaccinated, the severity and the impact of the virus is significantly different. If you've not yet considered getting the vaccine, I encourage you to do so today. Get vaccinated.
Isn't it good to know that no matter where you are, you're covered? Covered by a company owned by Vaccination that understands your unique insurance needs. At Metrosint General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrosint General Insurance Company.
changes. Work with the formula, do what I have to do. And call me by my name, I am ready to roll. Once the rules remain the same, how the story's been told. Call me anytime, never clock out. Lioness is on the rise, don't you ever have doubt. When you are willing to serve, we have room to observe, to see if you can walk the walk you tell. Let me give you my word, my voice must be heard. Bravery is a piece of my heart. Call me by my name, I am ready to roll. Once the rules remain the same, how the story's been told. Call me anytime, never cop out. A lioness is on the rise. Don't ever have no doubt.
You're looking at profiles, and my guest is Dr. Twanna Browne Caesar. Dr. Caesar, I'm spending this time mapping you out as this forever academic, and and you mentioned community person and sports person and so on, but I guess because you had to pursue a long period of study to be in the profession that you are, and I guess the period that we're looking at is definitely a defining period of your life. But that, as it is, what about your social side at this time? What are the things that were interesting you?
Music.
Mm-hmm.
So you asked me to choose 4 pieces of music. Those 4 pieces would define me in that moment.
Right.
Now, but throughout my life, and my friends, they have a running joke. I used to think of a song during conversation.
You're joking?
Yeah, during conversation.
And why?
They would say a line and then another song would just pop into my head. Very random. So they're like, how many songs are there? And I sang a song from my son the other day, and he was like, how do you know that? I said, I listen to the same radio you listen to. So younger folks get surprised at
they think you're not
how much music.
tuned in.
But travel made me interested in cultures, how people live, how things are different. So I love traveling.
And you got to do a lot of this traveling with the Girl Guides. Huh?
Love traveling. I did a lot of it with Girl Guides. Camped in England in '93, life-changing events. Just lots of things you never heard of, you never saw before that you got exposed to. We did archery, official trampolining, lots of river activities, learn new skills. Then after camp, we spent a month in England. Right. So my mother had a sister there. Again, you got to see all the historical sites and really a true appreciation for how other persons live. Did a couple of European countries, saw a lot of the Caribbean countries. I have a lot of relatives that reside in different Caribbean islands. Right. So enjoyed that immensely. Cultural wise, moving to Jamaica was tough work. It's medical school, but the richness of the cultural experience there really brought me joy. So I would go down to the little theater, save up your little pennies and decide, hey, Oliver at Large Live, we used to watch that show on TV. So when he had a show going on, if you could manage or if your timetable allowed, I would go with my friends to see that. Dance, singing, UWI singers, went to a lot of their events. Right. I lived on Seacold Hall, for those of you who know the Mona campus. So the entertainment center is literally across the hall. Again, sporting activities. So lots of concerts, got to see a lot of artists live, enjoyed that immensely.
Did you find university work very difficult?
Extremely. It was traumatic initially, to be honest. I went as a teenager to Jamaica. Got in to med school the last minute. You get a preliminary acceptance. and you get your grades, and then you say, hey, you get into med school. Exciting. Last minute, you have to go pretty soon because that's August. The results come out late summer, and then you're off. I actually wanted to go back to Mexico to spend more time at the guide's house. And then I was like, maybe not. Let's go to university.
Right.
Stayed back trying to get everything in order. Got there days before school started. First day of school, you have your brochure up for campus. I couldn't even find the class. So it was a crazy experience. I followed the map. I'm like, go around Ring Road, take this. I'm like, okay, I'm going back to my room. So I went back to the room, and the deputy hall chair at the time is like, why are you here? Med school students are in school all day.
Right.
I was like, I can't find the class. She's like, what do you mean you can't find it? I was like, I can't find the class. I didn't go to the orientation stuff. So she said, okay, fresher, I'm going to have another med student come knock you up in the morning and take you to class. That person who she sent, one of my lifelong friends now,
Wow.
was from Barbados.
Yeah.
Got close. I was like, look, it was really hard for me yesterday. She's like, oh, don't worry about it. I didn't understand anything they said anyway. So I was like, great. I didn't miss anything, particularly anatomy. And I figured that was because I didn't do biology.
Right.
So
here's the telltale sign of not having the exposure
so
before.
now
Right?
I'm like, look. And my dad said, before I left, he said, look, I'll give you a return ticket. If you can't manage it, it's okay. Come back home. So that weekend I called. I said, look, remember you said you gave me a return ticket. I think I should use it. And then he was like, maybe wait until next week. When things settle down, it was a bad week. Yeah, see how it goes. I'm like, were you serious or were you not serious when you said I could come home? So I say, anyway, whatever.
But fortunately, it's settled.
Yes, I stuck with it the next week and realized that the other subjects were going pretty okay. In the end, I ended up getting an honors viva for anatomy, so it worked out okay.
Excellent.
But that was because I said, hey, you realize everybody in the room is smart now.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of work.
So shoulders to the wheel, eh?
Yeah, you had to put in the time. You had to put in the time.
And as you explained before, you are also mixing that with all these extracurricular activities.
And you're new to the place.
Yeah.
You're new to the place. You're trying to figure out all the stories of violence.
Right.
And
did you ever feel unsafe, threatened, vulnerable?
I was robbed in Jamaica.
You were?
Yes, that was the first time I was robbed. My sister, she started UE a couple of years after me, and she went home for summer. At that time, we were in the clinical realm, and she just got back, and she lived on Irving. And if anybody knows the Mona Commons area, it's literally behind where I lived at Golden Circle. And I'm following her to the gate so she could get across, and young kid just run up. She had a gold chain on. I guess she didn't transition that, hey, you're not in St. Vincent anymore.
She just pulled it off.
Yeah, pulled it. I think she had a bag in her hand or something. And yeah, so we knew that element of safety didn't exist always, so you were cautious. And I guess that translates into how generally I am even here after living in Jamaica for 8 years. 5 years plus 2 internship, and I started working there a bit. So 7 years in Jamaica. You were aware of where your bag was at all time. You didn't leave your car door open or locked or unlocked. I mean, that never stopped me from getting robbed here, but it's not because of carelessness. Let's put it that way.
So you carry the surname Caesar now. That's your married name.
Yes.
And you're married to Soboto Caesar.
I am.
That honorable gentleman.
Good.
Where was he all this time? Was he in the frame?
It's funny. Our fathers are very good friends. Our grandmothers are very good friends. So I always knew of him.
You knew of him?
I knew of him. He went to St. Martin's. We have a running joke about that. I say, look, high school girls don't marry St. Martin guys generally. But he came to Jamaica with some law students to the law campus up there.
Yes.
And one of my Vincentian friends said, hey, there's some Vincentians here for a moot or something. We're going to hang out. I said, okay, not a big deal. And then we're chatting. And then it was MSN Messenger. We were relating that we continue to chat all the time.
Right,
I moved to New York. He had an aunt he was close to in New York. So we see each other a lot every time
This
he's
is
here.
when you went to do your residency.
That's when I went to do residency in New York. And then we communicate all the time, and you're realizing that you're communicating a lot.
You're getting closer.
Yeah. And the rest is history. So, yeah, and he's a good guy.
Well, you know, we're not here to talk about him, though. We were talking about,
yes, fair enough.
about Twanna.
Yes.
Your eventual, you know, qualifying in university.
Right.
You said you did that with honors, upper
So,
class honors. What was the
I don't remember.
nomenclature? What was it?
They call it an MBBS, Bachelor's of Medicine and Surgery. No means a surgeon, but that was the degree that you completed at that time. And you finish that and you get into the realm of internship or deciding where to do internship.
So you're thinking about what you're going to specialize in
right.
now.
So you have to do that year and a half first, and then apprenticeship. And during that internship time, I knew I was definitely an internist. I loved my internal medicine rotation. It was tough. And
Tough, but you loved it.
Tough, but I enjoyed it. I loved it. And I just remember a person saying, if you find something that you love, you never have to work a day in your life. And on the most exhausting days, I still love medicine. So that is really consoling, because when you're absolutely tired or you had a long night and a long day ahead, if you didn't like it, I don't know how I'd manage. I'd probably change careers by now, to be honest.
So you decided there, and then internal medicine was what you were going to do.
Internal medicine.
When did nephrology come into the frame?
So it was on the nephrology rotation that I decided I need to be an internist.
Oh, okay.
So I was, it would split into internal medicine, and you would do 3 months of that, but they would send you on different wards. So you would do general medicine, internal medicine. You might end up on cardiology or wherever, being the intern there. So nephrology. And not only that, at some point I knew I would come to St. Vincent. I would return.
Right.
And you wanted a specialty that was useful.
Right.
I liked psychiatry. I liked endocrinology. But a good internist could do quite a bit of what endocrinologists do.
Right.
And as a nephrologist, I do a lot of what endocrinologists would do.
Right.
And from the psychiatric aspect of things, I think I do a fair amount of counseling.
Okay.
Even as an internist, you have patients with chronic illnesses, comorbidities. You're their doctor for decades, so last 10 years, 20 years, hypertension and the diabetes not going anywhere. They develop chronic illnesses. So you talk to them about the kids, you know, when their kids graduate, or stresses, home stresses, work stresses, relationship stresses that they go through. And these things also have an impact on their health.
Yeah.
So without official qualification, I do a decent amount of counseling.
And a lot of that, I suspect it's just who you are naturally, because, I mean, you didn't have to really move away from your specialty.
No, I'd probably do it in any specialty.
Yeah.
My grandmother died while I was doing fellowship, or I just finished residency, and I started fellowship, and she died that summer. Literally in the July, where you're just changing over, you're getting your work visa renewed. And I went to then fellow program director and said, hey, my grandmother is not doing well. I want to go home. And he said, but your visa process is not complete. And I told him, I said, honestly, it's okay. If you want me back, you could have me back. But I was going to see my grandmother.
Yes.
And he granted me permission. And she died a couple of days before I got home.
Oh, then.
Yeah, so that was probably the most traumatic experience of my life. Being away was difficult. My mother was very involved in her care. You didn't get answers, or sometimes the doctors weren't as forthcoming with information or communication. It's not that they weren't doing their best, but I asked them questions that I needed answers to, and you didn't always get it. And I know it's not because my mother didn't ask. So at that time, I made a decision that I would make a deliberate effort to be a good communicator. And it's not natural to a lot of persons. Probably wasn't natural to me,
Right.
but I understand the anxieties that relatives go through, that patients go through. So I try my best to communicate with them, and I teach my staff, my doctors that work under me,
Yes.
that this is important.
And I can attest to that because you
This is
were the
important.
doctor of a close family member of mine who has passed on since then. But I remember that trait
Appreciate
standing
it.
out,
Appreciate it.
quite noticeably.
So,
We're the end of our third segment.
yes.
And let's get that third piece of music.
10,000 reasons.
10,000 reasons. Why
Matt
10,000? Give
Redman.
me one reason why it's 10,000 reasons.
It's a good song.
Mm.
My favorite phrase is, whatever may come and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. So no matter how terrible the day was or how wonderful it was,
You want to end up in a happy place.
you want to end up in a happy place. And a lot of times I think getting to that happy place is a deliberate effort. It requires work. It requires us concentrating and blocking out a lot of the negative energy that is around us, and us deliberately choosing to be happy and to be at peace. And that's what's bring us joy. So let me be singing when the evening comes.
10,000 reasons. Let's go to our break with that selection.
Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I worship your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name.
Isn't it good to know that no matter where you are, you're covered? Covered by a company owned by Vaccination that understands your unique insurance needs. At Metrosint General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrosint General Insurance Company.
I got my COVID-19 vaccine and my booster shot to ensure that I am protected. I've never been tested positive for COVID-19, and even if I did contract the virus, I've never been sick. And I'm confident that the COVID-19 vaccine significantly contributed to that. The vaccines are safe, they are effective, and they're one of the ways that we can navigate this pandemic together. If you've not yet considered vaccination or getting your booster shot, I encourage you to do so today. Get vaccinated.
Sing like never before. Oh, my soul, I worship your holy name. You're rich in love and you're slow to anger. Your name is great and your heart is kind. For all your goodness, I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. So bless the Lord, my soul. Oh, my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before. Oh, my soul, I worship your holy name.
You're looking at profiles. We're into our final segment with Dr. Twanna Browne, Caesar. Tell me, you're now back practicing medicine. How long are you back now?
I returned home in 2014.
2014.
November 2014.
So we're looking at about 8 years.
Yes.
How has it been?
A whole new experience.
Mm.
It was home. Practicing medicine in St. Vincent is similar to what I experienced in Jamaica.
Mm.
So you understand in the Caribbean context of things. But you came from an American setting. So after residency, I worked for a while because you had student loans and other debt you wanted to sort out. And in America, you say waste not, want not.
Yeah.
There was a lot of waste.
Right.
And you return to a setting where you just think about all the stuff that person's there threw out and so forth. And you're like, are you kidding me? Right. Coming back here, after doing nephrology, I came just in time where I was able to make meaningful input into the fine touches of the opening of the Modern Medical and Diagnostic Center, the hemodialysis unit. So folks from the ministry say, oh, we're trying to get a water treatment system. And I'm like, I don't know anything about water treatment systems and so forth. So because of my work relationships, before I called up some persons in New York, I said, look, tell me what I need to go through from the technical aspect. I mean, we wrote dialysis prescriptions and things just got done, but this was a new challenge.
Yes.
We go the walkthrough of the dialysis unit and simple things. You say, hey, I don't see the oxygen lines. And they're like, oh yeah, we have to get those in, so you saw where your intervention made sense.
Right.
And it was a wonderful experience to finally have public hemodialysis available in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
A lot of patients that you see, they come to you because of your specialty.
Yes.
What about our lifestyle as a nation? You think you'd like to see change so that you don't have to see this volume of people moving through?
For the most part, in nephrology and internal medicine, we see sequelae of non-communicable diseases. So we're looking at the diabetes, we're looking at the hypertension, we're looking at the high cholesterol. But these things can be altered, or the course of it can be altered by lifestyle. We're more sedentary. Our diet is more westernized. And I said, I lived in New York where all the junk food, they had it available, but they had bike lanes. So it was a nice balance between you eat junk, but you're right to work after. So
but burn it
hopefully,
off.
right, you know, so increasing the physical activity at a community level. If we don't get a park right in front of our workplace, we're going to make 10 blocks around town to do so. So that is definitely a big deal, as well as healthier food choices. All right. Eating less processed food generally, which we have available locally. All right. So physical activity increasing, healthier food choices, cutting down on the salt intake in our diet generally, leading to hypertension and so forth. Following up with your doctor.
Frequent checks.
Right. And it doesn't even have to be frequent. If you don't have any chronic illness and you're perfectly fine, every few years is probably okay, to be honest. Appropriate age-related screening. And what is screening? Is really just looking for diseases before they become symptomatic. So we know in the Caribbean we have aggressive breast cancer. Mammograms, all right, they're available locally. Have a mammogram every 1 to 2 years once you hit 40, all right. Pap smears, fairly straightforward. You have that every year as well. So we get diseases in an earlier stage that A, you're more likely to have a cure, and B, you have better options for better outcomes as well.
So you can manage it
So
earlier and therefore better.
Preventative medicine. I tell persons, I say, there still will be enough work for doctors to do if everybody still did the preventative medicine. So
your private practice on the one hand, but you do a lot of work at the hospital as well.
Yes. So in the internal medicine department, I'm the nephrologist at the hospital, and also go to modern medical and diagnostic center intermittently and oversee the nephrology department. So we run nephrology clinics. We manage the patients who now need dialysis, and we manage long-term care for those persons as well. And I also do internal medicine calls. So I work on the internal medicine wards as well.
What's a typical day in your life as a medical practitioner?
Oh, my goodness.
What time are you up? How do you prepare for it? And what time you're in bed?
Well, I don't think the typical day in medicine is why I'm up at 4:30 in the morning.
Okay, so you just choose that.
Right. So I'm a definite morning person. I'm up by 4:30 in the morning. A couple of days a week, get some exercise in, and really made that change recently to consciously increase my physical activity level. Practice what you preach, really.
Right.
So head to the hospital, drop my kids to school, head to the hospital. For most of the morning, I'm there. I'm sorting out ward work. And on any given day.
You have a lot of junior doctors under your supervision.
Yes, so we have junior doctors that we mentor. We have interns that we also mentor. And I like teaching, so they would tell you that I take time. Because I tell them all the time, I say, look, one day I'm getting old. I want to know that if I see you coming around my bed, I'm not terrified. So we hold academic sessions. We do morbidity and mortality where we review cases in our department. And it's a checks and balances, really, to make sure that we did the appropriate thing and also use it as a learning experience. And they are presenting to us, and we critique them, and it's a group effort. It's the whole department that gets involved. So I think that's useful, and that's something I started on returning. And then we have academic sessions on another day where they have topics to present, and we look at journals, what's current in medicine, to make sure that we're also providing evidence-based medicine to patients.
So all that's just your morning, and then
just my morning. Some mornings I do some teaching. Some afternoons we do some teaching
Right.
at All Saints Medical School.
Okay.
They do that remotely. And in the afternoon, I do private practice at my office in Annesville, Caribbean Kidney and Medical Center.
When do you take time off? And what do you do with your time off?
My Tuesday afternoons are sacred.
Okay.
So on Tuesday afternoons, typically, unless it's an emergency, that's my afternoon off. Most Friday afternoons, you'll probably catch me on the beach as well. Friday or Saturday or Sunday. One of the weekend days, I enjoy the beach. I enjoy sunset. I think the water is therapeutic. And I live on an island, so it's a shame to have it waste. Yeah, I enjoy the beach. I still like outdoors, so meet up with my families, my in-laws. We eat together and spend time with the kids. Not as much as I would like, but you try to strike a balance. Even if sometimes you think it's an elusive balance, you've made that effort to put some time to other things. And recognizing generally that I, Twanna Browne Caesar, aspire to be a whole person. I don't want to be defined by medicine. I believe in the spiritual aspect of things. I believe in emotional contentment, and I make deliberate decisions to keep that balance in my favor.
You've had a not so pleasant experience.
Yes.
You were robbed
Yeah.
at gunpoint.
At gunpoint and knife point.
And knife point.
Yes.
Tell me a bit about it.
I tell persons initially it was more anger. And after the event, very vivid in my mind to this day, I had to make deliberate choices that would bring me peace. And I make no apology for making those choices.
Yes.
And I'm at peace. I've recovered from that event. I don't wish anybody to experience that event.
Must have been traumatic.
It was. And I'm over.
Has that altered somewhat your sense of that? Because you're a free spirit.
Yeah.
And you talk about the sunsets and
Initially it did.
Sunrise.
Initially it did.
Yeah.
I was terrified to leave my house. Initially it did. And I don't think anybody could even imagine the impact it had on me, because they saw me back at work after a few weeks off, but they have no idea the effort you had to put in to keep things together.
Yeah.
And that social support around me, my parents, my siblings, my in-laws, they're fantastic human beings, all of them. And I thank them for what they did for me. And I thank God that I found peace.
And I mean, not to belabor it, but being held at knife point and gunpoint. For what? A phone?
Yeah. I say material things don't entice or distract me. So to lose a phone or laptop, it's not a big deal.
That's what they eventually made off with.
And some money. I recovered most of it. So for me, that was the least of it. It was the emotional trauma that followed. That was the bigger part.
We are coming fast to the end. I'm not going to ask you for the music yet. That's the last time I'm going to ask you. But I want, because you are still relatively young. You've achieved quite a bit. You are an eminent medical practitioner. You're in a field that is making great positive impact in St. Vincent. We've got a lot of service left in you, once you keep life. But there are people who are looking at this program, and some of them are looking with their children, and maybe wanting to hear from you the thing that you would advise people who are now thinking about what to pursue as a career and how to make themselves a whole person. Give me in a small paragraph.
Oh my!
Those words.
That's a loaded question.
Inspiration.
you can do it. All right. That's my chronic song. I can.
Mhm.
All right. So you can do it. It requires work and it requires parental input and positive feedback, which I always had. So you can do it, but you can also do it without anybody thinking you can do it. You just have to know you can do it. Reading. Join the library, read widely. Research the field of interest. Back in the day, the only thought of careers, yes, I'm a physician, but I recognize the role of all aspects in nation building. So we need the physicians, we need the nurses, yes, no less than we need the engineers, no less than we need the plumbers, no less than we need the carpenters and skilled workmen. And I want them to think of it also as a career worth pursuing with the same degree of excellence. You need agriculturalists, you need farmers, because you need fisher folk, and you can excel and do well at all these things. But fundamentally, you have to have a basis, a basic background on which you build. So build that background, build that foundation, and it's possible. Do it.
Let's hear your final piece of music as we go.
I
know that's your final piece. It's the final piece.
Final piece that I'm gonna share.
Right.
James E.P. on K-Plus Heroes. James E.P. K-Plus Heroes. During the pandemic, it was a tough time, especially in my specialty, internal medicine, nephrology. That's the specialty that took care of the COVID positive patients.
Because when people talk about people with underlying factors, those are the ones.
That's the regular set of persons. So those were the patients that got critically ill. Required whether admission to Argyle or admission to Milton Cato Memorial Hospital. My network from residency and fellowship allowed me to really pool those resources because I was able to organize virtual conferences with my pulmonologist colleagues and critical care colleagues in the US. So we did a few of those sessions, just making sure that what we were seeing was not different from what they were used to. Got a lot of resources from them in terms of any changes in management. They would bring us up to date and so forth in that regard. And just also supplying moral support and saying, hey, your management is sound. Things that we could improve on, they allowed us to tweak and say, no, you should do this instead if this patient that's happening. So it was tough. It was mentally exhausting and physically exhausting. And people are like, well, you chose that specialty, so what's the big deal? We're human. That's the big deal.
So James E.P.'s
K-Plus Heroes. He said, particular line, no, we appreciate you.
Yes.
And that really resonated with me. Thank you, James E.P.
I want to thank you for being my guest here on this edition of Profiles.
Thank you for having me.
Been a pleasure.
Thank you.
I think, I hope.
Hopefully they got a glimpse.
I hope they're edified,
Hopefully they got a glimpse into who Twanna is. And I trust I inspired some.
I'm sure you did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This has been another edition of Profiles. My guest was Dr. Twanna Browne Caesar. We'll go out with her song, her choice, K-Plus Heroes, James E.P.
Yeah. To every nurse, every doctor, every soldier, every essential worker, we salute you. Yeah. Shout out to the K-Plus heroes out there. Just know we appreciate you. Oh yeah. Reaching out to the unsung heroes without fear. We pray that God protect you everywhere. It's not easy on the front line. You have to put your life on the line. It's sticky on the front line. risking your life to save mine. And you're working overtime to give us peace of mind. Giving all you got so the pieces align on the front line. On the front line. So we take our hats them off. We salute you, each and every one of you. Because you go to work for us. Please stay at home for you so that we can see this truth. So meanwhile we quarantine and chill. You holding on a rigorous chill for us to be safe. So I say hooray to all the K-plus heroes out there. Just know we appreciate you.